everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Elsa and I'm so sorry I've been away for so long. So complicated, but between my work and my life, it was just too complicated for me to post videos in a while, and so I'm so sorry, but I'm back, and from now on I'm going to try to post at least 4 videos a month. But I have a lot to catch you up on, because even though I didn't make any videos, I did read a lot. What we're going to do is, I don't think I can do it in one video because I have 4 months to cover: August, September, October and November. And so in one video I won't be able to make it. So I'm going to do it in 2 parts, and since I want to start again on a positive note, I'm going to start with the best ones, and then I'm going to do a part 2 of this video with the worst books I read during these 4 months. So that's it for the explanations. Let's dive into it. So first, the 3.5 stars category. So the one I liked the least in this category was A Pinch of Magic. So there's 2 volumes I read. So the first one was A Pinch of Magic. Can't remember the title of the second one, but I read both. It's a middle grade fantasy trilogy, but each book has a standalone plot. So you should read them in order, but you can stop at the end of book 1 because everything is wrapped up. You just have a new adventure in the next book. And so you follow these 3 sisters, and they live in a place that is quite creepy and foggy and quite atmospheric, and they just can't live because there is a curse on their family. And the entire first volume is them trying to break the curse. And so it was really entertaining. I really liked the sisters' relationship and the characters overall, and the atmosphere, and the plot overall was really nice. It wasn't outstanding, but it was a really cool middle grade. The second book in the series was good as well, but just not as good as the first one. Then we have One Punch Man. So this is a series I've been reading for a long time, and I read volumes 19 to 23, and this series is really great. I highly recommend it. It's a shonen, so it's really action-packed but also really funny, and you follow this guy Saitama, who is super strong. Like, he's stronger than anyone else on earth, and he can basically kill everyone with just one punch. But he doesn't look like a hero, and no one takes him ever seriously, and there's a lot of situation he gets himself involved in, and it's really funny. And I love our main character. Like, every scene he's in is like 5 stars. The problem is there are a lot of other characters, because as his scenes are over pretty quickly, as he only needs one punch, the author did the choice of following a lot of side characters as well in the story, and some of them I really love and some of them I like a little less, and there's a lot of fighting I'm not that invested in. So this series, in parts, there are parts that are more like 3 stars for me, and parts that are 5 stars when we're with Saitama. So overall, it's a 3.5 star series for me. Then we have 6 Crimson Cranes. So this is a fantasy YA, and it's a retelling of a fairy tale, I think called The Six Swans, something like that. And what to say, I really liked it, but it wasn't as great as I would have hoped. I liked our main character. She was really interesting. I didn't fall in love with her, but I liked her, and I overall really liked the plot and the retelling and the way it was done and the atmosphere, and the fact that it's Asian inspired was really well done as well. So all that was really great. I think the slight problems I had with it was, first, she has 6 brothers, and they all kind of felt the same to me. Like, the author didn't really develop each of them and their relationship with their sister, and that was something I would have liked. There's also romance. It was good, but not as good as I would have liked. And there were some plot inconsistencies and things that dragged a bit. So all that prevented me from really loving it, but it was still a good fantasy YA. Then we have Nightfall. So Nightfall is the first book in a horror series, and I really liked it, but same, it didn't quite reach a 5 stars level. I love the atmosphere. Like, the atmosphere was amazing. I love the mystery behind it, because the plot, I can't tell you much about the plot because it's a really short book, and so you should go, not knowing anything. Just know it takes place in our world, but something happens and the entire world goes into chaos, and it's so well done. We follow 2 specific characters that live in the same town, and it's so well done. So I loved our 2 main characters. They were so well done. I loved the creepy atmosphere. Perfect. I loved what happened and like the mystery behind it, because you don't understand why it happened and why now. So well done. Also love the writing. The writing was gorgeous. The only slight problems I had with it was first, it's the first in the series. I knew that going in, but nothing is wrapped up by the end. So it really feels like an introduction to the rest of the series. And so I was left, wanting more and not wanting, to read so many books just to have a little answer, because really you don't know anything by the end of book one. And yes, I should continue on with the series, but I don't know. It was a bit frustrating not to have any answers by the end. I also just something that one of the main characters did at the end bothered me a bit, like, but yeah, everything else was amazing. I still would recommend the series. Then we go to the 4 stars category. So I finished the Daughter of Spoken Bone trilogy. If you haven't read this series, the first volume is about this girl who lives in Prague, and she basically was raised by monsters, and they live in a world that is not exactly our own, but she lives in Prague like in our world, and so she's torn in between the two worlds, and she doesn't know anything about herself. And something happens in the beginning of book one, and she learns things, and then she meets someone from another world and learns more about where she's from, etc. And it's basically what happens. And then you have a lot of fantasy, plot, and at the same time a little romance. So that's the main thing, let's say that. And I really liked this series, but I don't like it as much as Strange the Dreamer, which is one of my favorite series of all time. And what I love about this series, the writing is gorgeous, the atmosphere is incredible, and I really love the world building, like the overworld and what happens there and everything. It's just amazing, like so brilliant, brilliant ideas. My only problem with it is that I'm not crazy about the two main characters. Like, I like them, but only like them. I don't love them, and I'm not that into their story. And their romance is so insta-lovey. Like, I'm sorry, but I really don't like their romance. Like, it's not awful, it's just not that romantic because it's instead of, and I don't feel like they have a real connection. And yeah, so yeah, that's why I don't love this series, but still it's a really good one, and I gave it 4 stars. So yeah, the side characters are amazing, plot is amazing, everything is amazing, just not in love with the two main characters. Then we have The Smell of Other People's Houses. This is a YA contemporary. I don't know if you can say contemporary because it's taken place in Alaska, but maybe 20 or 30 years back, but it's not, maybe it's historical fiction, I don't know. It's between the two of them. And so we are following 3, I think, maybe 4 or 5 point of views of teenagers of around 16. And all of them live in the same village, but they have very different lives. And let's just say that their stories, kind of interact at some point, and it's really well done. It wasn't, phenomenal, but I really liked it. It's very well written, and I loved, the discussions that were in this book. And, it's very emotional at times, but not too heavy, and yeah, really beautiful. And, to see Alaska in this time period with, indigenous characters, etc. So well done. Then we have Finlay, Donovan is Killing It. So this is an adult thriller, but it's what you might call a cozy thriller. Like, it's really funny, and it's not really taking itself seriously, and it's just so you have a good time. And basically you're following this author. She's the thriller author, and basically she has a very hard life because she has to raise her children. Her ex-husband is an asshole, and she has all these bills to pay, and she can't find the time or inspiration to write. And one day she meets with a publisher in a cafe, and they're just talking, and the woman sitting right behind her is listening to them and thinks, listening to them, that our main character is like a hit killer. And so she basically gives her number and asks her to kill her husband for her. And then it goes, someplace else, and it's so well done. So I really liked it. It was really funny. I loved our main character. I could really relate to all her problems, with her children and her ex-husband and everything in her life. Like, she's so relatable and really likable, really funny, and the thriller part was really well done as well. It wasn't the best thriller ever, but it was really well done, and I highly recommend it. Moving on to the next category, the 4.3 stars. So first we have Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda. And so this one is a YA contemporary romance. And we're following this teenager who was gay, but he didn't come out, and so nobody's aware of that, not even his closest friends. And the only person who knows he's gay is this pen friend he has. So this guy, he doesn't know who he is, but he just knows that this guy is going to the same high school as him, but he has never met him. They're just pen friends, and so they're talking about their lives and how they're feeling towards their sexuality and coming out to their friends, etc. And we have so this kind of romance that's growing between the two of them, and also the life of our main character at school with his friends, etc. And what happens when one guy from his high school discovers his secret and starts blackmailing him. But it's really light, like it's not heavy at all, and it's a bit emotional at times, but really, like I said, light-hearted. It wasn't a new favorite, but I really like this book and I just flew through it. Next we have The Neverland. So The Neverland is an adult thriller. In this book we have two timelines, and in the present time we have this teacher, very strict and important teacher, that is basically killing off all the men that she thinks deserve to die. And we don't really know how the past timeline is related to the present timeline, and so you have the two mysteries, like mysteries of what's happening in the past and how it's related to what's happening in the present. And it's not really a mystery, but action-packed thriller in the present about this girl killing off people and what she has to do not to be discovered. So I really liked this book because I really liked our main characters. They were so nice to follow, and it's a kind of cathartic experience. Like, the guys she kills are just awful people and they deserve to die, and so it's so good to see them die. It's just awful, but it's like, if there are so many people in your life that if you could kill them you would, and seeing her actually do it, it's so nice. You also have this thriller, atmosphere, and so well done. Just love this book. There's one little thing at the end of the past timeline that really bothered me, so that's why it's not a 5 stars, but everything else was amazing. Like the atmosphere, the plot, the characters, perfect. If you want to know what bothered me, I did it in a spoiler section on my Goodreads review, if you want to know. But like I said, everything else is great. Then we have a manga series. So this is Hatsuharu. I picked it on a whim because it was on sale and it was so good. It's a shoujo manga and it's a romantic love story. And what's original is that the main lead isn't a girl, it's a male teenager, and he's basically a womanizer. He's very handsome and so very popular, and a lot is always dating all these girls at the same time. And basically he has this sworn enemy in his class because she doesn't take crap from him and she hates how he behaves. And something happens and basically he begins falling for her, and that's the story. And it's so cute, so adorable. I love our main characters. It's just so cute and adorable. Highly recommend it. And then we have The Patient. So The Patient is a short horror novel, and it's one of the first horror novel I ever read, and it was so good. I really loved it. I think it's really underrated, but yeah, I really loved it. So basically we're following this psychiatrist. I love it so much when you have a psychiatrist main character. So this is the case here. This main character goes to a mental hospital to work, and it's his first job, and he's really eager, to prove himself. And there's this patient that has been here since he was a child, and he's rumored to be like just so evil and so awful, and nothing can be done to help him. And the medical staff kind of gave up on him, and so no one is taking care of him anymore. He's just left in his room all day long. And our main character, it's his first job, is eager to please, is eager to prove himself, and so he thinks that even though no one could help him before, maybe he can. And so he starts seeing this patient, and that's the story. So well done. I love the atmosphere. I loved that we have a psychiatrist main character. So well done. I love that trope. And just the entire mystery surrounding this patient and the atmosphere, so great. Loved it. Then we have Senlin Ascends. So Senlin Ascends is the first volume in the fantasy series, and basically we're following this guy who is a professor. He's a really nice guy, but really uptight and always following the rules. And one day he goes to the Tower of Babel with his new wife for their honeymoon, and he lost her. And apparently that's something that happens a lot. Like, you have to be really careful because this is a very dangerous place and people go missing all the time. But he didn't know that, and so he goes on a quest to look for his wife. And it was so well done. I loved our main character so much, loved him so much, and I loved his wife. That's so well done as well, because you don't see much of her because she disappears quite quickly, but you see her through flashbacks, and the flashbacks were so well done because they really made me care about her. Like, I really loved her, and I loved her relationship with Stanley. So well done. There's also a bit of a mystery with these flashbacks because they're not in order, so you don't have the story from beginning to end. You have just these, moments throughout their lives, and the mystery aspect of it is that they're really different people, and so you're kind of wondering how they ended up together. And so it was really romantic, really cute, really adorable, and they made me root for them so much. You also have, the entire story in the Tower of Babel. So each floor is its own ecosystem, and with its own government, its own things going on, really different atmosphere from one level to the next. So well done. Loved it so much. The only reason I didn't give it 5 stars was that some floors weren't as interesting as others, like the basement and the baths were okay, but just okay. But I think it's the parlor and the last level in the book were so well done. So, like, some floors were more interesting than others, but it was so well done. Highly recommend this series. Then the next category are the 4.5 stars. The first one is Princess Jellyfish. This is a manga series, a shoujo manga, and we are basically following this girl who is an otaku. Otaku means you're obsessed about something, and usually it means you're a bit antisocial. And you're following this girl who's an otaku about jellyfishes. And she lives with 4 other girls that are all obsessed about something different. Like, one is obsessed with trains, the other with like yukatas, etc. And so all 5 of them are otakus, and so they have a hard time, socializing and going out. And one day our main character meets this girl that is like really beautiful and super well dressed and really popular, and basically this popular girl helps her out of a bad situation and follows her home. And from that point on, our main character just wants to be left alone, but the popular girl just finds her really interesting, and so she keeps pushing herself into her life. And what's really great about this series is that this popular girl is actually a young man dressing up as a girl. What I love about this series is first the 2 main characters. Like, I love them so much. I also love the relationship between our 2 main characters. Just amazing. I really like the plot and what happens and how funny it is. I highly recommend this series. Then we have A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. So this is a young adult thriller, and I just loved it so much. Like, I think I read it in maybe 2 days. I was like obsessed with it. Just please listen to the audiobook. The audiobook is so well done. You have to listen to it. It's a full cast and it's just so great. So audiobook is fantastic, but the entire thing is amazing. Like, I loved our main character. I loved the format of this book. Like, you have parts narration and parts interviews. And I love the plot. The plot is that a girl was murdered a few years back, and basically this guy was accused and he committed suicide, and so the case was closed. But our main character is doing a project for school, and basically she's researching the impact of media on, police investigations. But the entire thing is a bit, shady to her, and so she starts investigating. And it's so well done. Like, the mystery is really great, the rhythm is perfect, the format of the book is just amazing, the characters are great, everything is amazing. I highly recommend it. Then we have The One. So The One is an adult thriller, and this one was so great as well. So you have, I think, 5 point of views, and all of them are separate storylines, but they have one thing in common. They're all related to this app that was created, and so this app basically allows you to find your soulmate. And with these 5 storylines, you follow 5 stories of 5 different people, and you can see everything that can happen with such an app. And the way it's written, it's so well done because it's really short chapters, and every single one of them ends on a cliffhanger. Like, you just can't put this book down. Like, it's just amazing how this author does that. Like, you're reading from A, and you're like, oh, it's so good, it's so good. You're reaching the end, and it's like, oh my god, I want to see the next chapter. And you're so annoyed because then you have to read B's point of view, and so you have to wait, 4 more chapters before you're coming back to A. But then you start reading from B, and you're like, oh my god, it's so amazing. And you reach the end of B, and then all you want is to start, reading again from only B's perspective. It's so well done. Like, you really can't put this book down. So, so well done. The 5 storylines are just all as interesting, just so great. The characters, like, they are so complex and so well done. Storylines are amazing, just amazing book. Highly recommend it. Then we have The Unteachables. So this is a middle grade contemporary. You're following this teacher who has only 2 years left before he has to retire, and things happened to him in the past, and he kind of lost hope and all interest in teaching. And he's just, letting the days go by without really, putting any work or really caring about his students. And he has an awful relationship with, the chairman of the school. And so the chairman, just to make him go as soon as possible, gives in the worst class in the entire school. In this class, you have all the kids in the school that nobody else wants to teach because they're just, unteachables. And so he starts being their teacher, and you can see, the point of views of the 6 children and the teacher's point of view, and it's so moving and touching and everything you can imagine from that kind of book. And it's so, so well done. Like, the character arc of all these characters are so good, and I love the characters and the relationships between them. So, so well done, really touching, really moving, and really funny at times. The kids are unteachables for a reason, and they're so, so funny, and I just love this book so much. Highly recommend it. Then you have The Maidens. So this is an unpopular opinion because I don't know, nobody seems to have liked this book. I don't get why, because I loved it. I don't know. I really can't see why they didn't, but I love it. Maybe because it's marketed as dark academia, and it's clearly not. Like, don't go into this book thinking it's dark academia, because, yeah, you will be disappointed. It's an adult thriller taking place in a university, but no dark academia there. Just forget it. You're following this girl who is a psychiatrist, and one day her niece calls her telling her that her best friend just died and it was murder, and she's really spooked out, obviously, and she thinks it might have something to do with this teacher, a very weird teacher, because he has these groupies, and she thinks the entire group is really creepy and weird, and as her best friend was part of this group, she thinks it might be related. And so our main character just goes to the school to investigate, and that's the story. I really loved it, like, so much. Maybe also because I listened to the audiobook. The audiobook is fantastic, so please listen to the audiobook. Listen to the audiobook and don't expect Dark Academia, and maybe you will love it as much as I did. I loved our main character. I love psychiatrist main characters so much. I also really liked how the story, progressed and everything. Like, I was so engaged in this book, like, I couldn't put it down. I was so invested in the story and in the mystery, and I wanted to find out what happened. And there are so many suspects, like, you don't know really until the end, really have no idea who it can be, because you suspect everybody. And it was just so well done. And the twist took me entirely by surprise. Like, I didn't see it coming at all, and I loved it. So, yeah. Highly recommend it, even though I'm one of the only ones who really loved it. Then you have Kings of the Wild. So this is a fantasy series, but technically each book is a standalone. I think it's better to read them in order so you have all the informations and don't miss anything, but technically they're all standalones. And so the first one is a standalone, and it was so good, so good. Highly recommend the audiobook. Just amazing. The story is taking place in this typical fantasy world where you have all the typical creatures, like trolls, ogres, what, I don't know. And you have these bands, and bands are like, I don't know, like groups of people that go fight monsters, but they are kind of adored, like, music bands. And you have this main character who was part of this very famous band, but they all settled down, and he's very happy with his life. But one day, one of his friends from this band comes to him because his daughter is in danger, and he needs our main character's help to save her. And they just want, to get the band back together to go save her. And that's the entire plot, is them going on a quest to save her. And it's so well done. I loved our main character and all the characters in the band, and even the side characters. Just love them all. Love the relationship between the band. So well done as well. It's a quest plot, but it was so well done. I was so engaged, and it was really funny. Like so funny. I love the tone of this book and the messages it had and the themes it tackles. So well done. I loved it. Highly recommend it. Then we have Audiobooks. So Audiobooks is the third book in the Nevermore series. I love this series and I loved this third volume. I can't wait for the fourth one to come out. And if you don't know, this series is a middle grade fantasy series taking place in this fantasy world, and you're following this girl, Morrigan, who is a cursed child. So everything bad that happens in their world is blamed on her, and she's supposed to die on her 12th birthday, I think, but something happens and she's taken in another world, Nevermore, where she starts living in a hotel with a very eccentric, let's call him magician. It's not really a magician, but something close to that. And basically, if she wants to stay in this world and not die, she has to go to this magical school, but it's really hard to enter it, and you have to go through all these trials to be accepted. And so that's the first volume, and then the story goes on from there, and it's so well done. Love the third volume, love the characters, love the atmosphere, love the plot, love the world building, love everything about it. Then we have Assassin's Quest, which is the third volume in the Farseer trilogy. So this was great, as always. If you don't know, the Farseer trilogy is taking place in this fantasy world where you have this boy named Fitz, and Fitz is the bastard of a prince. And basically you're following him throughout his life. This series is very character driven with a lot of politics. This is the most frustrating series I ever read. Like, if you know, you know, but it's just really frustrating to read, but at the same time, it's just an amazing series. Like, the plot, everything that happens, the writing is gorgeous. The ideas the author has are just fantastic. The main character, like Fitz, is my baby, one of the best characters I ever encountered in any book. Like, he's my baby. I would follow him to the end of the earth. And yeah, he's amazing. And everything that happens is amazing, and like really frustrating, but an amazing series. And I really loved this conclusion to the series, even though I know there are 6 more volumes in Fitz's story, and so I can't wait to dive into them. Then we have Harry Potter. So I reread volume 1, 2, and 3. Love them, so good. If you haven't read them yet, please do. Then I read Aurora Rising, which is the first book in a YA sci-fi series, and basically you're following this group of teenagers that are a squad in the army. It's not really the army, but like maybe Peace Corps, something like Peace Corps, and they go on a mission, and then something happens and everything goes awry, and basically that's the story. And you have the POVs of the 6 teenagers in the crew, and I loved it so much because I loved every single character in the crew. I love the crew so much. I love the relationships between them. They're really complex, and also the plot and how it unraveled and everything that happened, and the tone. It's really light and funny and just so cool. I just loved it. There are also very great relationships, like both romantic and friendships. So well done. I can't wait to read the next book in the series. Then we have Pride and Prejudice. I'm obsessed with the movie. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. I read the book the first time when I was maybe 13 or something like that, and I enjoyed it but didn't love it. But I think I was too young at the time to read it, and so I decided to reread it. I actually read over Jane Austen's book. I will come back to them, but this is the first one I reread. And yeah, it was amazing. So good. I love the writing. The writing is gorgeous, and she's just, this has a satirical tone, and it's so well done. Like, the way Jane Austen writes about society and her contemporaries, it's so brilliant and well done. The message and everything she talks about and the themes are so well done. The romantic relationship is just so beautiful, and the sister relationship as well with Jane and Elizabeth is so well done. Everything is amazing, and please read it. And finally, we're going to go to the last category, the 5 stars. So first we have The Pinballs. So The Pinballs is a book I read when I was maybe 12 or something. It's a middle grade contemporary, a really short one, and I loved it when I was 12, and I just decided to reread it because it was free on Scribd, and I loved it so much. I'm so happy. Maybe part of it is the nostalgia because I loved it so much when I was a child, but I think it holds up. Like, it's really good. And basically you're following these 3 children that end up in foster care in the same foster home, and it's so well done. I just love our 3 main characters. They were all so touching and lovable, and maybe not lovable because I don't know how to explain it, because they're not likable but you still love them. And they're really complex, and their backstory is so touching but not too heavy at the same time, and it's just so touching and moving and beautiful, and I just love it so much. Then you have Local Women Missing. So this is an adult thriller. I loved it so much. In this book you have 3 timelines, and basically it all starts with one woman going missing in a neighborhood, and then another one going missing with her daughter, and you're just trying to find out if all these disappearances are related or not, what happened and why. It's so well done. Like, I loved the 3 timelines. I loved how clever they were. I loved the twists. I loved our characters. I just loved the writing, loved the rhythm. I just flew through it, loved it. One of the best thrillers I read this year. Then we have Emma in the Night, which is another adult thriller. So good as well. So this one is really underrated, I think, because the rating on Goodreads is like not awful but not that good. I don't get it. I loved it so much. Maybe it's because of the audiobook. The audiobook is narrated by Juliet Lim, and it's just amazing. So please listen to it. The audiobook is fantastic. The story is about these 2 sisters that went missing the same night. And the story starts when years later, I think it's 3 years later, one of the sisters come back. And the entire book is her talking to the psychiatrist who's working for the FBI, and just their conversations, because the psychiatrist is trying to, understand what happened to this girl and to her sister. And you have also the point of view of Emma, the girl who came back, and she has an agenda. She came home for something, you just don't know what, and so you're going through the book trying to understand what Emma is trying to obtain and why she's talking to the police, and if what she's saying is true or not. And you have the psychiatrist point of view trying to understand the psychology behind all of it and what happened, and it's so well done. Like, I loved it so much. One of the best thrillers I ever read. Just fantastic. Like, I love the characters. Like, the 2 main characters are so well done and so complex, and I love them both. I loved the themes and the message behind it and the subjects it tackled. I also really loved the way it was written. Like, it was the rhythm and the format, it was so well done. Like, amazing. Then we have Emma and Sensibility. I'm going to do them both at the same time because they are both written by Jane Austen, and I love them both. They're amazing, like so good. I love them so much. Like, I had watched the movies for both of them, but the movies really don't do them justice. Like, they're so well done. Both of them, the writing is amazing, the atmosphere is amazing, the themes are amazing, the character arcs are amazing, the romance is amazing, everything is amazing. Please read them. Then we have Project Hail Mary. So good. So this is a standalone. It's an adult sci-fi, and basically you're following this guy who wakes up in a ship in space, and he has no idea who he is and what he's doing on this ship. This is so good. Like, amazing. Everything is perfect. Like, the main character is fantastic. I can't tell you much more than that, but let's just say, yeah, like, there's another important character in this book. He's amazing as well. Their relationship is fantastic. The plot is incredible. Loved it so much. It's so funny, like, just hilarious. The writing is just amazing. The theme is amazing. Everything is amazing. Like, please read it. It's just so good. The one thing that bothered me a bit was the science, in the sense that there is a bit too much science sometimes, and if you're, in the field, I think you will love it. Like, my brother just loved the science in this book because he loves science and he loved how it was done. But as someone who doesn't understand much science, it was a bit hard for me to understand. Like, you get the idea, you just don't get it in detail. And to me, it was a bit frustrating at times. But yeah, really, it's a really minor thing. Like, everything was perfect, and I highly recommend this book. Then we have Malibu Rising. So Malibu Rising was so good. Like, I loved the 2 other books by Taylor Jenkins Reid, but I think this is my favorite. For two reasons. The first one is that I listened to the audiobook. The audiobook is phenomenal. Like, say, narrated by Juliet Stevenson, you have to listen to it. So well done. The other reason is that it resonated with me personally. Like, I won't go into detail, but let's just say that my personal life is very similar to the one of the main characters. And so because of that, I could relate to a lot of that, and it was so well done. Like, I really felt seen. Like, it was so well done, and I loved the characters, I loved the plot, I loved how it was written, the rhythm, and how everything wrapped up. It was just perfect. Like, this book felt like it was written for me, and it was one of the best books I ever read. And finally, we have really the most surprising book on this list, because I would never have thought it would be a 5 stars, and it's Educated. I never read nonfiction, like never read nonfiction, and especially memoirs, because I just don't care about other people's lives. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. And so I really never read nonfiction, but this one was recommended to me over and over again, and I just had to read it for my, TBR game. And so I was like, you know what, let's just do it. And this was one of the best books I read this year, like for sure on my favorites of the year. Incredible, just incredible. Loved it so much. So first, listen to it. Audiobook narrated by Juliet Stevenson. You have to listen to it. One of the best audiobooks I ever listened to. So listen to it. That's my first advice. And then just please pick it up. Even if you don't read nonfiction, like me, like you, it's not a problem, obviously. You're following this girl who was raised in a Mormon society, and so with a very religious background, and because of her family, she didn't have access to education until very late in life, and this is her life and how she got her education. She's like a rock star. Like, she's my idol. I admire her so much. Like, I want to be like her. Like, incredible woman. I thought picking this up that I would be bored because it's a real life. This book was like 10 thrillers or action-packed fantasy series packed into one book. Like, this was action-packed, doesn't even cover it. Every single page, I was like, oh my gosh. Like, this book I read in 2 days. Couldn't put it down. She had a very hard life, but at the same time, it's really readable. Like, you can check the content warnings, but there aren't that many. Like, really, you can read it without being afraid. Like, it's not that hard to read. But still, like, the life she had, it's, like, shocking. You can't imagine the life she led. You have to read it. It's, like I said, you can't put it down. Not boring at all. The least boring book I read this entire year. Incredible. So impactful, so emotional, so important, so interesting. Like, please read it. Incredible. So this was long enough. I'm going to stop here, and like I said, I'm going to do a second part for the books I liked least. Please, if you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you around.